Oh, so describe the history of Guantanamo Bay. When did the U.S. acquire the territory? What was the area used for throughout its existence under the U.S.? What is under U.S. control? Chloe, Kenny, when you guys finish it, just email me that, okay? So I can go back in and put it in. Who won last night? Seahawks or the Rams? Gave me two answers there. What was it? Oh, okay. I just saw some Geno Smith was kicking butt when he came in now. We'll see here. Rams 26-17. You think so? Well, Matty Stafford is pretty cool seeing him on a good team. Yeah, after those Packers gave him the fat L, huh? You're giving up on him already. You get Coral from Ole Miss. The Steelers. All right, I'll give you another minute to finish up here and we'll move on. What do you get? A cold brew this morning? I got a pumpkin spice cold brew yesterday.
It has.
What do you mean? It's not a bang. I know that, but it's good.
It has pumpkin spice on it.
Jeez, getting harassed up here. All right, so history of Guantanamo Bay. When do we? Where is it? Where is it first? Where's it at? Where's it located? No? Cuba. Good job. So acquired it after what? No? There you go. Yeah, good job. So with the Teller Amendment, Cuba had its own independence. Oh, great for Cuba. But with the Platt Amendment, showed that the United States really controlled all imports, exports, the economy of Cuba. So in all reality, was Cuba free? No. United States had a firm grasp of Cuba really since the end of the Spanish-American War. Probably gonna, well, we'll talk about it. It will lead to increased tensions moving up into the mid-1950s, okay, going up into the 1960s with the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Cold War. So Guantanamo Bay, what was it utilized as first? Griffin? Yeah, naval base. Good job. So as the United States is expanding its military power, becoming a world power, we all know at the end of the Spanish-American War, we acquired a few territories we talked about yesterday, and we control really the whole Western Hemisphere, all the way up into the borders of Japan. So soon enough, that's going to crack, right? Just eventually that Japan is going to try to move past its own borders, imperialize areas and lands because they are an island. They are limited to what resources they have. So we'll talk about a war that they get involved with a European country at the start of next chapter. And they duke it out with Russia, which we'll mention, we'll talk about more more next week, maybe the week after. Okay. So with that being said, the United States is becoming a world power, dominant here in the Western Hemisphere. And we'll talk more today about Teddy Roosevelt's presidency and how the US is going to be almost like this police force, this police authority in the Western Hemisphere over these other Central American countries and South American countries. All right, good. So naval base, good. And that was a naval base really up through World War One, past World War Two, where we obviously created a lot of different types of naval ships, submarines, you name it. So it was perfect for really preparing for naval battle. Okay, in World War II especially, a lot of the fighting done in the Pacific is in the open waters. Okay, so it's important that the United States has a strong Navy moving forward. Okay, all right, so with that being said, what later was it? Barbara?
I believe the article said that refugee camp.
Yeah, so from Haiti, okay, Haitian people, okay, as there's a lot of atrocities there, okay, as there was a lot of hurricanes rolling through, the destruction of Haiti. You still hear about it today. Whenever a hurricane rolls through Haiti, it pretty much gets leveled to the ground, right? They are constantly without power. They're an underdeveloped country. So with that being said, they're always trying to flee to the United States. Even today, there's a huge influx of Haitians trying to enter the United States at alarming amounts. And if anybody does a current event next week, maybe you can talk about that, right? The immigration, and maybe that there should be some more policies or restrictions on our borders when a lot of these Haitians are trying to flee in the United States. But in the 90s, moving up into the early 2000s, Guantanamo Bay utilized as a refugee camp for these illegal immigrants coming into the United States. Good. What else? Cassidy?
Well, no, it's used as a terrorist prison.
Yeah.
After 9/11.
Yeah, good job. So now it's a terrorist prison still, okay, ever since really 9/11, this was established in Guantanamo Bay. And they do that because it's really close to the equator, close to the same climate, atmosphere, environment as really terrorist groups, okay, people in terrorist groups in the Middle East. As you can see it kind of goes right across here, right? So it's the same environment, and try to make sure that there's no cruel, unusual punishments for these prisoners, even though, yeah, they're part of terrorist organizations. So interesting to know about Guantanamo Bay. What did Fidel Castro do in the 1950s, though? What did he do right after World War II? Noah?
I don't know.
Oh, in Alaska, yeah, man. It's against that Geneva Convention after World War One. We'll talk about that soon enough, all right? We'll talk about some of the atmosphere, the environment, and the mistreatment of prisoners. All right. Barbara? Wait, what? No, go. What were you saying? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, good job. Yeah. So we're relying on Cuba to provide water, electricity to Guantanamo Bay when we had our naval base there shortly after World War II. And Fidel Castro, when he was nationalizing all these industries, all these businesses in Cuba, meaning he's taking it over, right? The government's going to have control of that. And with that being said, when he cut the water off, the electricity, the United States had to create their own, right? Generate their own power and make sure that they could harvest their own water there for Guantanamo Bay, that naval base. So yeah, cost the United States a lot of money, millions and millions and millions of dollars to do that. But it just goes to show the increased tensions, like I mentioned, in the mid 1900s between Cuba and the US, when it's really getting heated up during the Cold War. Okay, again, Cuban Missile Crisis. We'll talk about that towards the end of the year. All right, is there any questions on Guantanamo Bay? So we all know where it's at in Cuba, right? Okay, gained it after the Spanish-American War, really transitioned over the years into many different plans for that territory, for that little base that we have. All right, so I'm going to come around and check your bell ringers. You should have 5 of them. If you aren't here, well, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. Make sure you guys do that, right?
I'll go do it right now.
Hey, thanks, man.
I'm gonna pour your account home.
You better not. You better not.
Pour your son duty.
What? Eddie, I don't do that. Oh, no, I was at a homecoming. I like home. I like a football game. I saw my professor. Oh, subscribe to your channel. Like, oh, cool. Awesome. I guess she shows my lesson videos in class. How crazy is that? Hey, spread the account there, right? Share the love. Got 'em? Okay, good. Oh, yeah, nice to meet you. Good. All right, man, falsely accusing me of things here. What's the scribbles for?
That's the end of the thing.
Oh, okay. I like it. The USS Maine. All righty, good. Tara, where's your drawing of the USS Maine?
I didn't get that.
Oh,
I didn't know that was a reply.
detailed drawing back there. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Still working?
Yeah, I know.
You have them? Okay, okay.
The jacket.
Locked out. Oh, I guess it did lock the door. Oh, you just did.
That's a false,
At the top?
because the US is gonna go up.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. You gotta draw, you should draw tracks in the middle.
You don't. You just gotta copy it. You just click on the link. Yeah. It's all should be all. That's why I posted this.
Jackie.
Here, you know. I'm kidding. Well, no. All right.
No, we gotta keep the doors.
Who? Marino.
The guy who murdered someone.
Brian Monterey.
Oh, oh my, yeah. And he's close. Gotta look out. Kenny, how many
Wait,
got?
those are my cousins.
I work on the other one.
Dan? Who works? Okay. Angel? What do you gotta do though? Maybe like that. Hard to see, but you got it.
Abolition shows. right
There you go. Jeremy?
It's literally
Are you
that
going
bridge that
yourself?
goes over the
Oh, really?
road. Yeah. So then as you can come to our corner. Well, it goes through.
There you go. Good work. Awesome. All right. So I'm gonna put these grades in right away. We're gonna move on. Roosevelt corollary, big stick diplomacy. You got it. Huh?
What did you do?
Diplomacy.
Like, you showed me here.
You show that to Miss Nell? All right. All right, so sphere of influence. I talked about that quite a bit already. What do we have for the sphere of influence? I gotta get moving here. Let's go. Let's go. Are you kidding? How about you guys write down the terms here, and then I'm gonna move on because I gotta get through the material, and then you guys can find the definitions later.
Wow.
Sorry. Chill, man. Come on. Here. Oh. Eddie, what are you saying back there?
What?
This video says made for kids, so you better watch what you're saying. These lesson videos. Huh? Well, yeah.
You supposed to be, you calling me
Yeah,
on YouTube.
yeah.
What about their current events?
Schultz, what's up? Headphones. Yeah, go ahead.
I couldn't tell if you had a class or not, your door's open.
I know, I gotta cut a hole in the window there. Yeah,
Are you serious?
pretty grazing, yeah. All right, so here we go, moving on here. All right, so we finished up President McKinley. Okay, we'll refer to him here soon enough again when we talk about progressive presidents. But for the most part, we're moving on. Okay, he was famous for the Spanish-American War, expanding the United States sphere of influence, all vocab term, in the Pacific, okay, and the Caribbean, and expanding it to control really the whole Western Hemisphere and moving all the way up into these Southeast Asian countries. So the United States really controlled half the world and all the way up into the parts of the borders of Japan. So the U.S. is really expanding as a world power, imperialistic power. And we'll talk next week about maybe some conflicting issues about imperialism and how some public officials thought, well, maybe we shouldn't be taking over these lands. It's immoral. It's unethical. This is not what the United States stands for. Well, when it comes to rising as a world power and competing with these European countries, we had to go through that phase. And that's what Teddy Roosevelt, as he's becoming president, we already know him with what? The square deal, right? Yeah, advancing. What's that? The 3 C's. Good job, Noah. Good, good, good. From chapter 1. So we're going back to his presidency now. Okay. We all know how he became popular with the people, famous with the people through his time as a what? What was he a member of? What cavalry unit? The Rough Riders. Yep, good job. Taking San Juan Hill. And with that being said, he won a Medal of Honor, and he's becoming even more than McKinley, an imperialistic president. Yeah, we're not going to go through a war with Teddy Roosevelt, but we're going to really expand here in Central America and South America and control and dictate what goes on here in the Western Hemisphere, like a police authority. So here's a political cartoon of Teddy Roosevelt and his big stick diplomacy. And what is big stick diplomacy? Well, we're just going to intimidate other countries by threatening them with our military. It's very similar to what gunboat diplomacy is, right? It's all similar, okay? We're going to use our military force to threaten other countries to adhere to our demands. So in the Western Hemisphere, there were no other European countries there. We finally followed the Monroe Doctrine. We finally pushed out the last European country, Spain, out of the Western Hemisphere. We talked about the purchase of Alaska with this dollar diplomacy. We'll talk about that more next week, and how the U.S. is becoming this dominant power. So big stick diplomacy now under Teddy Roosevelt is that we're going to control every means of economic goals, every means of whatever expansion we see in the Western Hemisphere. So we're going to control Central American countries, really the Caribbean islands and South America. We're going to dictate what goes on, even our assets here out in the Pacific. So with that being said, there's still some Central American countries, South American countries that may trade with European countries, right? It just happens. So the US is going to act like this police figure, this police authority to control trade and dictate what goes on, and the relationships between these Central American countries, these South American countries with European countries. So who's the voice for these Central American, South American countries? The United States. All terms, all disputes, all discussions, all forms of diplomacy with European countries all comes through the US first, okay? It just shows how we were really controlling what goes on here in this part of the world. We are the only world power over here in the Western Hemisphere. And now Teddy Roosevelt is going to try to utilize the military to force these smaller countries here in Central America and South America to adhere to our demands, okay? And if they don't, well, we're going to send our naval ships down to these locations, these areas, and intimidate them until they actually adhere to what we want and what we demand. All right, so you guys understand what I mean by big stick diplomacy? Okay, Teddy Roosevelt taking this idea of carry a big stick, right? Speak softly, but carry a big stick, meaning, well, we don't need to go out and try to fight with other European countries or fight with other countries, but the big stick, the military, is right there behind us, right? We don't need to go and talk it out, right? We don't need to go and really start actions or start conflicts with other countries when they already know what type of military we have behind us. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. It's like, I don't know, UFC fighter, boxer, right? One of those guys that doesn't talk too much, but you all know he's going to win, right? Khabib, Nurmagomedov, right? Conor McGregor, he talks a lot. But what happened when they fought? Khabib crushed him. It wasn't even close.
And then they got.
What's that?
Then they got.
Yeah, then they fought in the crowd. Yeah, what the heck? So big stick diplomacy, well, there's examples of it, even moving up into modern times. The United States, we have the most advanced weaponry in the world. We are the only superpower in the world. And we're going to use our military to seek out what we want and establish what we want throughout the world with our military strength. So yeah, big stick diplomacy still around. Continues on World War II. That's why I have Harry Truman, George Bush in the Middle East. Okay, the war against terror. We're going to utilize our military to take and advance what we want and our interests in these types of areas. All right, so the Panama Canal. So this is another example of big stick diplomacy and how the US is going to control trade through the Western Hemisphere. This whole time, what were these European countries looking for through the age of exploration? You guys remember from Mr. Shutt 2 years ago?
Nope.
They're looking for a what? Noah? Yeah, Northwest Passage, right? They wanted to try to find a way to try to travel through this part of the world to the Asian countries, right? A faster route. It really started with Columbus, right? He said, you know what, we're done sailing all the way around Africa. We're done sailing, okay, all the way across or around Africa to these Asian countries. Let's just sail this way across the Atlantic. It has to be a faster route. Well, after time and more explorers, they're trying to look for these Northwest passages, like Henry Hudson through the Hudson Bay, right? Like Magellan coming all the way down around South America, long route. Okay, so we can try to avoid this route all the way around South America. How about just cut it right through? So Teddy Roosevelt decided, let's find the shortest section in Central America and try to build a canal through it where we can control trade through the Western Hemisphere. And they chose a little place called Colombia. Colombia, right here at the top of South America, it actually reached up into Central America as well. And this is the shortest section that you can cut through to make a canal. So Teddy Roosevelt goes down to Colombia and requests permission to build this canal. What do you think Colombia says? Heck no. Nope, we're not agreeing to it. We don't want to allow an outside influence coming into our country. So what do you think Teddy Roosevelt uses? Big stick diplomacy, right? He said, listen, we're going to use our military and you're going to adhere to our demands. This is exactly what we want. Okay, this is what we want to try to create a form of travel through the Western Hemisphere. And this is the shortest section. This is going to be the easiest spot to do it. So open up, all right? Open up. And with that being said, Colombia did not. So the United States, being the US, well, we're going to try to be ethical about the situation. We're going to start a rebellion in Colombia. And they're going to aid Panamanian rebels to try to overthrow Colombian rule right here in Central America. And that's exactly what happened. The US aided these Panamanian rebels with weapons, with modernized weapons. And obviously we stood right around the shores of modern day Panama with our naval ships to protect these Panamanian rebels to fight back against the Colombian rule. And we all know how that went, right? Yeah, pretty easy for the US and these Panamanian rebels to take over this territory and control this land. And that creates Panama right down here, guys. So Panama right down here, really connecting Central America to South America. And the only way it was established was really because the United States wanted to build a canal. Right? We aided and helped the Panamanian rebels with military equipment, advanced weaponry to fight off the Colombian rule there in Central America. So that being said, the Panama Canal was being created, okay? And this took a long, long period of time to move all this earth. It's a tropical climate, tropical environment. And I guess I'll talk about that more on Monday. I didn't get through it all. I apologize. Okay, we're just talking about big stick diplomacy and obviously getting into the Panama Canal. We'll mention more of this on Monday. So don't worry about it too much right now. I had an assignment for you, but I'll hold off. I'll hold off. Sound good? All right, so we'll pick back up on the Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. See you next Tuesday, right? So with that being said, we'll talk about the Panamanian Canal here soon enough. Some more details about it coming up. You guys don't have school Monday.
Columbus Day.
Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day.